All's well that ends, well, all's not well that ends not so well, or something like that. Whatever parody you want to make of that old saying with regards to it being New Year's Eve of 2020, aka going into 2021, December 31st, 2020, the final hours of this awful excuse for a year are upon us. And I today have plans for 2 streams, both on YouTube, and they're going to actually illustrate the difference between the 2 stream formats that I'm talking about. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay, and 2 streams are planned for today. The first is going to be this one, which is going to be more focused, less interaction with chat. So, hybrid stream, something made to be a YouTube video later. It's going to sound like a radio show, and it's going to entertain people, and people are either going to watch or they don't, either now or later. And then we'll do a hangout stream, playing ESO, talking about stuff, working on graphics, whatever, heading towards New Year's later tonight. So we can ring in the new year when it hits midnight here on the East Coast of the US, Eastern time zone and whatnot. Have a nice New Year's party, and also have a nice little New Year's party stream or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, whatever we're doing at that time. And also tell 2020 to go itself with a rusty iron harpoon. Similar to when 2012 was a particularly bad year for me with the layoffs and everything, and I made a video called Rotten Hell 2012. I think Rotten Hell 2020 is perfectly appropriate, and hopefully YouTube is understanding when it comes to monetization that people are going to have incendiary titles for how saying goodbye to 2020 for pretty obvious reasons, which even YouTube should be familiar with. But for now, we're going to have something more akin to an evening radio show. I can stop hitting the mic. And so I brushed my teeth right before going live, and I hate when toothpaste leaves a film on your teeth and stuff like that, but that's something else altogether. So we'll just unfocus the camera if I feel like it's that much of a problem. And I think I got wires getting caught under the mic stand again. Hold on. Yeah, I gotta move these. I gotta move those wires to the other side so they can stop getting caught under the boom arm and potentially getting their insulation cut into by the metal in this thing, or shove something underneath so that stuff can't get stuck in that little crevasse there. But we shall deal with that some other time. All right. So we're talking the multimedia meta. The first of 2 streams. I said in a community post as well as a tweet earlier that I was getting some new equipment to set up. That is a UPS box, because I'm saying goodbye to American Power Conversion. They were the first UPS box company that I was introduced to, and now they've kind of evolved into the first and the worst. I've had better luck with Cyber Power in terms of not being annoying to operate as well as performance. So, also, I think when I went out to Walmart and bought something off the shelf, big mistake, when my last Cyber Power box died and wouldn't power back on after many years of operation, I didn't look at the wattage, so I think my computer and my monitor draw too much power. So when it does the self-test, it routinely fails and starts endlessly beeping until I shut everything down, and that is so annoying. So I have its replacement, but it's 2020. Technology has changed since the last time I went UPS shopping. So you have to, first it came in on a cold winter day, so you have to let it acclimate, get up to room temperature before you apply power. And with the battery that's in it, it has to charge for at least 8 hours to get its initial charge in order to not mess up the battery. So before I deploy the thing, I'm going to basically charge it overnight, and we'll set it up tomorrow instead of tonight. So we'll get that charged up and installed, and hopefully no more beep at random times, because the wattage from the computer and this monitor, this old 2008 TV, is a little too high for the device. So we had the power go out during one of the winter storms, and it kicked off after like 5 seconds. So the battery can't handle the stuff anyway. So we'll deal with that later. All right, let's talk about a little something that should not escape the senses of humor of any confessional Lutherans in the audience. It's not about you. It's about your fan base being for you. Blatant parody of issues, etc. And that saying they have from a religious perspective. It's not about you. It's about Jesus for you. A reminder for Christians to focus on the gospel and not go so crazy with commandments and the law outside of their intended use. It's the sort of thing that CFW Walther made quite a big deal about. and the book of his points on law and gospel is a classic read among the Lutherans. However, one very important thing that I've observed over the years is that when dealing with narcissists, whether in a religious or a secular context, when dealing with narcissists, you have to get over yourself. And so there was an incident a couple of years ago with the last tech-related job that I had. There was a problem where, towards the end of it, in that fateful year of 2017, where I found myself able to take this religious idea of law and gospel and secularize it, and it applied perfectly to the situation with the 9-to-5ers. Basically, if you are in charge of a business, don't kick your people while they're down, figuratively, so to speak. And if you actually watch a tutorial on how to issue a warning as a supervisor, you'll actually see some of them tell you to always end the discussion on a positive note, because you're not firing the associate. You have to remind them that their employment is valued, their contributions to the team are valued, and that they should not be worrying about, they should be given the opportunity to improve, because that's what performance counseling is supposed to be about. So, but that did not stop me from running into some downright narcissistic leadership figures, one of whom, the worst of whom, I found out a while ago is no longer with the company. Thank goodness. Because this was the person whose behavior served as the template for me learning about covert narcissism after I left the job. Once I found out, I tried to stay in touch with some of those folks that I used to work with, who I got along with really well, but for reasons one way or another, I have pretty much stopped saying anything to nearly all of them, because time marches on and people change, and sometimes, we work together for a while, but your life goes in a different direction than theirs, so you become different people, so you're like, okay, I'm just going to leave this person alone, and, if they say hi again, maybe I'll say hi back, but it looks like we're different people who probably are just going to get on each other's nerves anyways. So, you have a situation like this, and you have a situation like this, and, well, it changes things. But all right, so covert narcissism. The individual who is the most responsible for me being as worked up as I was by the end of 2017 was somebody who fit that template perfectly. Once you learn about cluster B personality disorders, it does a lot to your views on people, especially bad people. When you realize that there are people in this world who, by mere virtue of how their brain is wired, are going to not make any sense and be illogical, overly emotional, and sometimes very dishonest and untrustworthy, to the point where you can't trust that they're not trying to sabotage you at every turn for their own giddiness or this feeling they have of controlling and manipulating others. When you realize that people like this exists, it really sobers your thinking on dealing with more petty issues, like, for example, internet trolls, content creators who have the wrong attitudes on things, or in the case of the argument about whether to shout down trolls in your chat or something like that, with the whole Ashney situation. That sort of thing. So, the individual involved that you could say is the distant ancestor of this entire discussion was somebody who I could basically describe as the 90s on steroids. Think like all those 90s badass memes and, fads and stuff from the 1990s. The grunge and other stuff like that. I'm mad. I'm angry at the system. Nobody understands me. Fight the power. I'm being held down by the man or whatever. The stuff that in the attitude that informed all of the angry music of the 90s, early and late 90s. So from grunge to nu metal, that kind of thing. Now, if you take that and you turn that into a form of narcissism, you end up with covert narcissism, a dark, brooding individual with a constant undercurrent of turbulence and cloak and dagger vengeance. This is somebody who expresses their feelings of superiority to over others by saying that nobody values them, that their talent is being held back, that somebody else is keeping them down, that there is something constantly holding them back. And these people, when you encounter them, will always have a target. They will never be able to be persistently happy about anything, because there will always be they will always go back to this place of there being somebody who's their target, who's holding them back. There's going to be somebody who they're going to say, or something or someone. There's always going to be a target that they're pointing the finger at. In the workplace, this translates to, these are the people who are always going to HR trying to get people fired. And they'll get people to within an inch of their job, but somebody else will always pull the trigger and issue the termination paperwork for performance deficiencies or whatever they can cook up. Yeah. I mean, if you've ever listened to Reddit discussions about malicious compliance, you can expect a boatload of it from people that are like this. So that is the kind of individual who has informed my views on this matter, as well as why I'm coming out today to talk about lessons learned in 2020. Coming out here today, I should say. To talk about lessons learned in 2020 and the simple reality that as a content creator, it's not about you. And if you want to focus exclusively on it being about you and make a giant personality-based show, not unlike a radio show like Howard Stern or Rush Limbaugh or whatever, you're limiting yourself. And I think that's the overarching theme when it comes to Twitch streamers, is that they're so sucked up into Twitch's marketing, which Twitch is incredibly good at. They're incredible at marketing and building corporate culture that people just get washed up, or not washed up, people get caught up in just like that. Twitch is very good at that, and people don't realize that they're fishbowled. That's why I call this out directly as the Twitch bowl effect. Because a lot of the good things people are saying about Twitch, they don't realize it's very good marketing. And if you get out of that environment, if you don't think of streaming the way Twitch wants you to think about it, you take more YouTube's perspective on it or Facebook's perspective on it, and you actually give YouTube and Facebook some attention and give these platforms credibility to present streaming to you in a different context, you find out very quickly it's not about being a Twitch copycat like the first rendition of YouTube gaming a couple of years ago. It's about actually trying to build something that has some strength on its own. The bottom line is, and this is an overarching theme when I deal with the whole Twitch debate thing, is that Twitch streamers don't realize they're being marketed to, and they don't realize that there's an entire world outside of Twitch that does not do things the way that Twitch does things. Even little details like concurrent viewers. You'll get called a 2-viewer Andy. I'm not going to take you seriously because nobody watches you, blah, 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 blah. Little do the people that are harassing people on Twitch like this, little do they realize it's like the dumb schoolyard bully, where they'll be aggressive towards you, yes, but the dumb schoolyard bully be a little lacking, in the gray matter, and they won't realize how stupid they're making themselves look. And if you step back from the intimidation, you might notice how stupid they're making themselves look. But little does the people, 2-viewer Andy, ha 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 ha, or something like that. The Twitch person that tells you you're a 2-viewer Andy, little do they realize they're caught up in a culture that was built by a company that built this platform that emphasizes the living daylights out of live over everything else and uniquely concurrent viewers. We've compared, and I've got the graphics to prove it. Just don't want to dig for them right now because they're on my Twitter, and I'm going to put them on Imager in there. I think I have them on Instagram as well. So Twitch exclusively is the one platform out of the big three with any emphasis on concurrence. YouTube doesn't have it. Facebook doesn't have it. And there are some very interesting consequences. It's funny. I've been thinking about this 2-viewer Andy problem. It's an insult. Someone will say, you're only a 2-viewer Andy. Who cares? Nobody watches you. Little do these people realize someone with exactly 2 concurrent viewers is an illustration of the problem that Twitch has with its emphasis on concurrence, because a 2-viewer stream is a bad stream on Twitch if you don't have Twitch affiliate yet. You need 3 concurrents on average over a month. So a stream with 2 concurrents is bad. It's a 30-day soft ban on getting monetized. So you have to wait. If you don't counter that with a bigger stream and you're just getting started, nobody knows who you are yet, blah, blah, blah. That is now basically a 30-day soft ban that you have to wait to expire and drop off so your average goes back up. That's some of what I've been noticing with this thing I've been keeping an eye on with these people that are grinding away and can't get Twitch affiliate because they don't realize their grinding versus Twitch's system is what's doing it. They keep streaming when their concurrents drop below 3 instead of stopping because they just want to stream all the time. And so they don't realize that that's exactly what's holding them back. Now their stream's average drops below 3. It's now a bad stream. It hurts you when it comes to getting Twitch affiliate. On YouTube, however, a 2-viewer stream in an environment where concurrents don't matter. You can also change the format to hybrid streaming instead of hangout streaming, so it's more worth watching as a YouTube video, or in this case, with what I'm doing, sounding like a radio guy, listening. If you do this, you make these changes, your 2-viewer stream and the concurrents that watch live, plus the views you get afterwards when it's converted to a video, that all contributes watch time to your goals to become a YouTube partner. So the 2-viewer Andy stream that's a bad thing on Twitch is a good thing on YouTube. It holds you back on Twitch. It progresses you towards partner on YouTube. And then throw in things like videos and stuff. When the algorithms pick them up, slow as they are sometimes, that gets traction. You have your first video that starts taking off and basically supporting itself, bringing in regular watch time for you. That helps you with your 4,000 in a year. The bottom line is, if you're going to grind away streaming on YouTube like you would getting started on Twitch, yeah, it's going to be a rough ride because you need to grow an audience that's constantly tuning into your live streams to pull that off. Then get your 4,000 watch hours that way. The good news is, any results you get at all are good for you, as opposed to them being selectively good for getting Twitch affiliate, depending on whether you're at 3 concurrent viewers or not. So these little things escape, some of these people who act as though Twitch is all there is, and they're informed by this philosophy that streaming is what it is, and you have to think like a Twitch streamer everywhere you go. Little do you realize you're caught up in their marketing, their culture, and all those people that agree with you or, oh, yeah, thumbs up, I'm gonna like your tweet, blah, blah, blah. They're caught up in this too. And it's something just like waking up from the Matrix. You gotta take that red pill. Use the muscles, so to speak. Use the muscles you've never used before. Oh, I've referenced that movie so many times. Maybe I should do a watch party on on Twitch. I've seen the movie before, so, I've seen the movie before a ton of times, so who cares? Do a watch party on Twitch one of these days if it's available on Amazon Prime. The original Matrix, not the sequels. I should see if I can watch the sequels somewhere, or should I just get the DVD and just see how bad they were? But so yeah, it's not about you, it's about your fan base for you. Parody of something that I heard on some religious conversations that, pastors talk about, but it has a very important secular context here. It doesn't have to be a religious thing. It actually can apply very well in the secular world. So yeah, it's not about you. So you really think about it. And there's people tuning in right now, and there are people that'll watch this later when it's a video. What is going on when people watch YouTube videos and they don't click away? They found something interesting. They found something they like. In other words, something you made is being of service to someone else. They like it. They find it entertaining. They find it informative. But it's the other person who likes, watches, supports, etc., that takes your work of art, if you want to call it that, from underappreciated and unappreciated to something that benefits others. It's the other person that transitions it from that to something good. It's not you. It's your audience. Or it's the people you want to reach. Demographics again. This is why I persistently say that this thing where Twitch streamers and other people that are too caught up in the bag of goods being sold on Purple Land are too caught up in this whole idea of building a community. Community is the wrong word. I mean, I've heard the word community misused before, even in the offline world, and I didn't like it there either. My college president, for example, used to always talk about the community, the community, the community. And yet, the college had a very robust diversity program that's like, you have to respect people from other countries and other cultures and realize that the differences between you and other people are going to exist. So on one hand, you have this guy publicizing the school talking about the community as though we're all one giant kumbaya having fun, and then, oh, well, no, let's work past our differences with diversity, multiculturalism, and all this other stuff. So the two ideas don't really go together. So, and if you grab the dictionary, it talks about a community is a bunch of people with some kind of common ground. How can that be the case with people watching a live stream other than they're watching it? These people are going to have their differences. They're going to have different age groups, different backgrounds, different ethnic groups, different cultures, different points of view, different political beliefs, different religious beliefs. There's going to be differences galore. The one thing that unites them is that they're watching you. Unless there's something else, and you're lucky if there is. But the one thing you can count on with your so-called community is that they're watching you, therefore it's really your audience. Your audience is who watches you, your fan base is who likes and supports you. What you're looking to do is have people go from one to the other. Now, how do you do that? You're deciding, who do you want to attract? Who do you want to repulse? Demographic stuff. What exactly are you there for? What are you making stuff for? You are a content creator. You create stuff. Duh. So, what are you going to make? And how are you going to attract the folks you want as part of your fan base and drive away the people you don't want watching without actually having to get angry and stuff like that on stream or something like that? That's part of the tactful, strategic work of doing stuff like this. And I can tell you, I've done it before, going back years. I talked during this debate about this argument I've been having with people about this, whether you want to be narcissistic or not in terms of getting back at trolls or anything like that. I talked about this with regards to what's going on and everything, and I talked about this with respect to, the AVGN and all the drama of the late 2000s with all the angry game reviewers that were inspired by him. Now, James, the angry video game nerd, is incredible at what he does. He is a grandmaster of it because he plays an angry satirical character, the AVGN. He's had plenty of opportunities to get caught up in drama. Doesn't. He's infamous for that. It's ironic that he plays such an angry character, and yet with numerous opportunities to get involved in any kind of drama, he stays out of it. He keeps making stuff, delivering the goods, because he knows how it's done. He knows that some angry random person on the internet is never going to be as relevant as building something great for other people to watch and enjoy for now, technically, decades. And I will, go to Cinemassacre's YouTube channel. I almost said change, like YouTube channel page. Whatever. Go to Cinemassacre's page and look at the 6-digit views on all the videos, sometimes going into the millions. And that's what good looks like. So, and that's with the problem with people that were bashing anybody else who made angry reviews in the late 2000s. And that's also with the scandals of AVGN versus Irate Gamer. And that's with literally every other bad thing that has come into existence with YouTube gaming videos because of all the angry reviewers. Now, the other angry reviewers didn't get this. They would get caught up in drama. In some cases, their channels would get taken over by it, or their content would get undercut by it because they let it get under their skin. Or to try and look more like a real, genuine, angry person, they got angry. So, in the worst case scenario, folks shut their channels down. As they got sick of it. They got sick of the spam in their community pages. They got sick of all the other stuff going on. So, and that's part of the problem with the argument I'm having today with folks, is that they would really have to dig to find evidence of this, because many of these people, their channels have been gone for years. I could name and shame a lot of these former YouTubers if I really wanted to, but no, I'd rather just make my point that if you do enough digging, you'll eventually see where I'm coming from. Yay, it's New Year's Eve. We have our first person driving through the neighborhood with a sawed-off muffler or whatever. Even though it's little country roads, so he's redlining it like 20 miles an hour. Woo! That's why the less focused of the streams, the less radio show-ish of the streams will be ringing in the new year later tonight. Hope there isn't too much more of that. Let's turn on another fan. I use noise floor fans for this, thanks to the wonderful technology of OBS blocking things out. That's not as much of a thing. So yeah, a lot of these other angry reviewers back in the day, and many of them are long gone. Some of them are even getting made fun of for being long gone. Oh yeah. Many of these other angry reviewers, they didn't do things the same way. They didn't keep things professional. They got caught up in drama. In some cases, they got their channels shut down because of strikes. And in other cases, they just left because they couldn't handle the drama anymore. They wound up with an unruly audience that they couldn't handle. So yeah, a bigger audience is not always better. You have to make very specific decisions that there are certain people you don't want to cater to, and then make sure your content isn't interesting to them. That they have some reason to, in some cases, blow up in your face and then storm away, never to return. So give them the illusion that they've won, and they told you off and stormed out of your channel, never to return again, and you're like, okay. Some people are going to be like that. You have to let them think they've won before the argument ends. You know, while you keep making good stuff and they go get mad at someone else. Oh, I told him off. I'm so glad I did that. Yeah, big loss. Yeah, that's the thing. Keeping things professional. It matters. So, now, that's part of the problem I have with this argument, is because much of the evidence of it is something you'd have to have known about back in the day. And a lot of these events are years behind us at this point. Maybe the Internet Archive, who knows? I don't know if the Internet Archive works really well with YouTube channels. I've never really tried to look at old defunct YouTube channels and whatnot, but you're probably talking like some kind of drama site or something like that, or some drama encyclopedia, or some old, entry in that made it to the Internet Archive that or something like that, that talks or an Internet Archive that talks about this former YouTuber that couldn't handle the audience they attracted and wound up shutting their channel down. So that's part of the issue. Those of us that were there, we know, but it's going to be hard for anybody who wasn't to go digging around because this stuff is so long gone at this point. The success stories are still around. The failures are not. So, and that's one of the reasons why I focused very heavily on very professional creators who've had very good results on their channel with this sort of thing, because they understood. It's not about them. Oh, someone may have a problem with them, but again, the extreme majority of your audience, no matter how small it is, will usually not interact. And this applies on Twitter too. These people, they're just going to watch and enjoy, and you've done something good for them because they watched and enjoyed what it is that you were doing. Now on Twitter, it's a different story. There are no view counters on Twitter, so you only see the engagement. And so the whole vocal minorities problem that YouTube has with likes, dislikes, comments is amplified even further on Twitter, when it looks like people are brigading you because a bunch of people who disagree with you are liking each other's posts. But those are just the low-hanging fruit, as usual. The people that flap their mouths very often are the low-hanging fruit on the internet. For every person that actually comes out and says something, and does you a service, by the way, because feedback is a gift, there are lots of other people who are silently making decisions, silently coming and going, silently doing things, and you will never know because they don't have to tell you anything. So you don't have to know that 3 people told their buddies to stop watching you because they didn't like something you did, and they're never going to tell you. They're just going to go watch somebody else. This is the demographic thing you got to keep in mind when it comes to whether or not you want to get revenge on somebody or tell somebody off. You may have some people in your audience who understand the very basic rule when it comes to gossip. If you can gossip to me, you can gossip about me. The covert narcissist I dealt with a couple of years ago, who's got me thinking about this stuff for the first time once I found out what that stuff actually was like that. She never seemed to understand that bad-mouthing other people in the workforce to me, even though I'd keep it confidential, that bad-mouthing other people like this meant that she could be bad-mouthing me. And being in and out of HR until people got fired, yeah, maybe I'd agree with her on some of the people that weren't good for the team that she wanted gone, but she could be doing that to me. Paper trail? Yeah, she could paper trail me. It's a major erosion of trust, and teamwork has no chance if your teammates don't trust each other or can't trust each other. It is huge. If you don't have trust in the workforce, you have fear. That's what Liz Ryan has practically made a... She could make an online course about that stuff, because this is one of her major talking points in her various articles for human workplace and stuff like that, is people have to trust each other. The best teams will be teams where people trust each other instead of being afraid of each other all the time. So, different discussion altogether. But yeah, if you can gossip to me, you can gossip about me. So even if I'm trying to be a comedian and roast somebody, maybe some people will get the joke, maybe some people won't. That's the giant question mark. But I can tell you, the level-headed, mature, constructive people that I want watching my content will be offended if I'm constantly bashing trolls all the time. If I'm constantly stopping the stream to make an example of people who are saying bad things in the chat. Because they're going to know about this rule. And they're going to think that I'm more emotional about things than I really am because of the way I'm portraying myself. Now, I mentioned on Twitter there was an incident with Ginny where something really bad happened to her. Did it end up in the stream? No. She left some documentation and a statement about it on her Discord. So, handled it professionally. And that's one of the things where she makes it look easy. But, the more I keep an eye on, what she's streaming and the way she handles her stream and her Discord and her mods and stuff like that, she's darn good at what she does. One of the biggest female influencers in the world with thousands of concurrents on Twitch, travels the world, has lots of friends that are big streamers, things like that, has a huge following because the 8,000 to 10,000 concurrents is probably a lot smaller than the actual size of her audience because this is concurrence we're talking about, not individual people. So an average instead of an absolute number. But she's really good at what she does, period. Probably some role model somewhere in there besides all the Papega jokes and stuff like that. And people making fun of her because she's doing something dumb on camera, which gets people chatting and people laughing. And, self-deprecatory humor is a thing and has been a thing in comedy for a very, very, very long time. So, yeah. So, indeed. The people that I want to attract will not want me to be super angry like that. They're going to want me to handle things properly. And also, don't forget, your persona does still reflect on you personally. So, someone that sees you hamming things up for entertainment value on social media, maybe they try to keep things professional if you apply for a job somewhere. Maybe they don't. You never know. And it's this question mark that's the reason why folks should behave themselves. And that also applies to content creation as well. If you show that you can maturely handle adversity, that is a plus. That is a plus, especially if you have to deal with a lot of people. If I'm looking to hire somebody in corporate America for a job that involves a lot of public-facing stuff, I want somebody who can handle controversial issues. I want somebody who can handle rabble-rousers. I want somebody who can handle altercations and other such stuff where there's some kind of emotions being raised. I want people who can de-escalate situations. I want people who can keep their head on straight, things like that. And all of that, by the way, demographics. Let's go all the way back to the discussion with the angry reviewers now and talk about the thing I forgot to talk about earlier. So, this whole thing about who do you want to attract, who do you want to repulse? You had all these people that were getting themselves in a lot of trouble, ending up with unruly audiences they couldn't handle, making angry video game reviews in the late 2000s, inspired by the AVGN, but lacking his professionalism. There were all these people out there that were doing that. Now, when I got into gaming videos, instead of taking influence from James, AVGN, or Chris, the irate gamer, or any of the other reviewers out there, I decided to keep it professional, even though I knew I would end up with a smaller audience because of that. And so my inspiration was actually Mark from Classic Game Room, who at one point had to put disclaimers on his videos that he was doing journalistic video game reviews. My guess was that he was always being compared to AVGN, and people were wondering why he wasn't angrier. It was that much of a thing to do back then. It was that trendy. It was that popular. So people getting mad at old video games. So many people did that. So many people did that for the longest time. It was so popular for so long. And even today, you've got folks like Angry Joe Show and stuff. But AVGN's still around. He's older. Yeah, middle-aged guy. But so's a lot of big names on YouTube. Folks that were YouTubing in their 20s who are now in their 30s and 40s. Yep, the old people platform, whatever. Get off my lawn, kids. Yeah. So, I did that on purpose with Play Some Stuff in the early years in the late 2000s. I deliberately did not want to attract toxic people who weren't being called toxic back then, by the way. That term didn't really come into vogue until the Overwatch era, I think. So, I didn't want to attract toxic people like that, so I kept things professional, similar to what Mark was doing. And yeah, Mark had a smaller audience, but they were a way more constructive audience. More people that were nostalgic for like old Sega games or something like that. And to an extent, I think that his smaller, more constructive audience would probably love to see him bring Classic Game Room back. Except, I think Mark had an issue where he wasn't as big, and there were issues with YouTube and whatnot, and that got him upset, and he decided to move on to other things as a result of all that. But that's his business. The bottom line is, at a time when getting mad and very emotional on stream in your videos was the popular thing to do, I deliberately did not do that because I did not want to attract bad people to my videos. And for the most part, that worked. I mean, I saw other channels self-destruct because of the audiences they could not handle, and I never wound up with that. And actually, my most popular Play Some Stuff video was the one I knew was filling a niche that wasn't represented on YouTube, My Fitness Coach for the Wii back in 2009. And so, yeah, I've been around this stuff for a very long time, long enough to be a grumpy old guy about it. But I know that looking at a lot of the big names on YouTube, there is a lot of things that are very persistent with them. So if they're not corporations to begin with, where there's a team that does everything and they're just the talent that is the talking head on screen, if it really is their channel, what these people are doing is they're staying focused. They're realizing that the naysayers that come along do not replace all those people in the audience that are happy with what it is that they're doing. And it's not worth hijacking the entire channel to chase after people who may never positively, constructively like what it is you're doing anyways. And by the way, whatever happened to common courtesy? Whatever happened to having some manners? Whatever happened to first impressions or final impressions? If I meet you for the first time and your first impression of me is I come up to you and angrily tell you, you suck. If I come up to you and I just get angry at you, that's not exactly a good first impression. I should know better. But not on the internet. But then people are like, oh, come on, why'd I get banned so quickly? Whatever, you can't take criticism. No. Because, for every person that raises trouble and, just ban them and be done with it, there's lots of other people that are going to be quietly watch and enjoy, or not so quietly watch and enjoy, and support you and say nice things about you. Now, I will throw hearts towards like community post comments and stuff on YouTube that say, hey, yeah, I remember your videos from a while back. I really like what you do. Keep up the good work, man, because it's rare enough in this cacophony of the internet to see people actually step up to the plate and say positive things. Many of the people who've done this the most, like Logan, for example, I actually, know who they are. Even if they did come after me with some constructive criticism, I'd be more apt to take them seriously if they said I was wrong about something or they tried to correct me on something, just because social skills, You don't go introducing yourself to somebody by telling them how much they're a waste of time and a piece of crap and blah, 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 blah. I mean, yeah, you're going to hurt their feelings, and feelings don't change what it is that you're saying, even if you're telling the truth. Sometimes, when dealing with people, it's not about what you say as much as it is how you're saying it. Actions too. Actions speak louder than words. Kind of like when you're taking driver's ed and you get taught about being dead right for the first time. Someone cuts you off in traffic, you're mad, oh, they didn't follow right away, they cut me off. Ah! But you don't try to cut them off to assert that you have the right of way, otherwise, collision, you might wind up dead. You'll be right, but you'll be 6 feet under. So, that's the thing. Now, sometimes life isn't fair. Sometimes you don't get what you want, and sometimes people don't like you. It's all part of people just being different. And then let's get into the discussion on the one demographic that this whole thing about stand up for yourself, it's self-care, yell at the trolls. Let's talk about the one demographic that hasn't been brought up yet. And hopefully if there's a passive-aggressive video in a week or two talking about this, then maybe there'll be some mention of this or some attempt to shoot it down or whatever. There are people out there who don't want to be constructive. They have zero interest in it, and they may not even have a serious account. They just do sock puppet accounts all the time. These are people with nothing constructive to contribute. They're never going to like you. They're never going to care about you. They're never going to want to anything to do with anything that you're doing. All they want to do is tear people down, you included. So these are the people that will show up, comment with incendiary comments or chat or something like that. These are the people that'll show up. They'll start messing with you because they want you to get angry at them and do something in a video or on stream that they can then clip and report as harassment or something, and hope that the usually blah enforcement, the usually badly deployed enforcement of community guidelines or something on these platforms will get you kicked off the platform. And then they can get their warm little fuzzy feeling from taking down a creator. Yes, there's people out there that just want to do that. This has been going on the entire time I've been on YouTube, heading towards 15 years. Anytime you hear someone talk about false flagging, false DMCA, false this, false that, there's people who want to abuse the systems. They have no stake in the game. They don't care. Their account may not even be legit. They might just be some sock puppet they created, and they keep using like VPNs or sock puppets or something like that to keep coming back if the platform ever bans them. But they have no interest in what you're doing. They will never support you. There is no winning them over. All they want to do is get you to the point where you do something that they then report and get you taken down for, and they brag to their buddies about it. Yeah. 2006, let's go all the way back to 06. Not long after I first started taking YouTube seriously as something other than a random video appearing in people's MySpace feeds at the time, I ran into a harassment campaign to take down a little old lady in a wheelchair with several disabilities who was on several medications, who was trying to video blog like the rest of us that were getting into it at the time. This was somebody who, like I said, they're a little old lady in a wheelchair on several medications. The medications messed with her and made her stutter and sometimes affected, her ability to think clearly and stuff like that. But she was trying to video blog like the rest, and her conditions, her stuttering, her medications were getting in the way. Mean-spirited people all over the place were flagging and bragging about flagging her videos in the comments. Flagged, usually misspelled with only one G. Flaggity flag flag, better flag one more time, just for good measure, blah, 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 blah. They did that long enough until YouTube's, at the time, overly automated system got her suspended. She got kicked off of YouTube, and her account got shut down, and then there was a big counter campaign in order to reinstate her account, which eventually succeeded. But here was some mean-spirited people doing cancel culture before it was cool. Here were some mean-spirited people that were showing up and doing everything they possibly could to get this little old lady in a wheelchair on several medications, who was in pain most of the time, kicked off of YouTube. Just because she was a little old lady in a wheelchair who had to take a lot of pain pills or whatever. Mean-spirited rubbish. No way to treat other human beings. Not in the slightest. But that's my introduction to people making a sport out of trying to tear others down on these platforms, and it has not stopped since. Whether you talk about off-platform places or people organize these things, malicious Twitch raids, whether you're talking about campaigns to get people deplatformed, or anything of that sort, there is an entire demographic of people out there who have no constructive interest in your channel whatsoever. There's no convincing them, no changing their mind. They want you destroyed, just like everybody else that they go after. And so, this is the demographic that is the Achilles heel of this whole idea of standing up for yourself being some kind of self-care. And this is a situation where we'll see if it shows up in any of the Twitters I watch. Someone complaining to Team YouTube about being baited. Rodney, thank you for the 10. And thanks for stopping by. So, here's the thing. These are the people that have no constructive interest in what it is that you do. I gotta make an alert for that now that it's not just a one-off thing. These people have no interest in what you're doing. They're not interested in anything. You'll never have them as a fan. They're just going to be constantly trying to tear you down. So these are the people. So ban and move on sounds boring, but if you know about these incidents And people complain on Team YouTube and other Twitters about this, that, they got banned for harassment. And there's even people that make videos on alt accounts, which they're not supposed to have, but the enforcement of the no more accounts policy on YouTube has been spotty over the years. In the worst case, I actually know of one guy who was banned for nudity. Took 6 months off of making videos, came back with a second channel, got monetized, didn't need a job anymore, made full-time income, before everything collapsed, and in a separate incident, he got banned again for the same thing. So, it is questionable. Rules versus enforcement is a thing on these platforms. But it's the platform's responsibility. It is the platform's responsibility to do this kind of stuff. But that's the thing. I've seen some frustration videos from people that had gotten banned and made another video on another account expressing frustrations over what happened. So I've seen this stuff before where people are baited into tearing, into somebody who's messing with them. And then that gets clipped, reported, boom. And then the people that are doing this get to just enjoy that they took down a creator. And the bigger the creator, the bigger the feeling of victory and whatnot. And, there are some people that even make videos about this, like, the so-and-so army took down blah, 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 blah. Let us revel in our victory, with some, robot voice and maybe some movie music, some movie music from some big epic movie with lots of war scenes in it and stuff like that. So, you get all that going on. So, these people are out there, bottom line. If you're getting antagonistic, even if it feels like a form of self-care, no, you're at risk of that. Plus, you look at the channels that have stayed focused, they do better than the ones that don't. It's interesting. I actually had Paladin Amber recommended to me as a channel that was a great example of this. So there was some big roast that she did at some point for, someone that was giving her a hard time. But here's the thing. Let me just load up Sully Gnome here. How long is it going to take with all these numbers? Paladin Amber. I noticed that she's been trending negative for, I think it was 90 days. I think she was trending negative for 90 days. What was it? Yeah, 90 days is has a negative trend for concurrence for 90 days. And let's load up the 30-day. Oh, a little bit of positivity, but overall just kind of blah. I don't know if there was an incident where she made a spectacle of someone messing with her. It wound up on LSF, and that hype just kind of came and went. That happens with these kinds of things. So, but you're not talking about somebody who's a huge YouTuber. You're not talking about somebody who's a huge YouTuber that has consistently been getting 6-7-digit views for years. You start looking at some of these people, and you'll see common ground to that. Part of that is that they understand it's not always about them. And that's, in some cases, when your content gets big enough, it eclipses you. Before we even go to my blog entry on the matter, which was my 2020 blog finale, talking about giving some examples of some of these YouTubers who stayed focused, let's also talk about the offline equivalent of this that predates all this internet stuff. Think like the comics. Charles Schultz, for example. Who the heck is Charles Schultz? You might know Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Snoopy, etc., and Charles Schultz is the guy that drew Peanuts for all those years. So imagine if, for example, he got some success with the Peanuts gang and suddenly tried to make it all about himself, when in reality, he just built something that people liked. He just built something that people liked, and people were more attached to the Peanuts gang than they were to him. Is that an insult? No, it's just people being people. It's proof that he made something good. How about Jim Davis with Garfield? How about Gary Larson with The Far Side? How about Bill Watterson with Calvin and Hobbes? All these cartoonists drawing all these popular cartoons, some of which, like Calvin and Hobbes, are still selling box sets of books today. Paper books in this day and age where things are going more and more paperless. You can buy a box set of Calvin and Hobbes off of Amazon still, and it is still selling. It hasn't been taken out of print, right? Let me just check that. Make sure I'm not making myself look like an idiot. Amazon.com, Calvin and Hobbes. I gotta get past the Calvin Klein underwear to get to this. The complete Calvin and Hobbes. Bill Watterson, $70 for a box set of the entire strip. And this comic was from decades ago at this point. But the characters are iconic. The characters are still believable and understandable today, even though you're talking about something that was made in the 80s and 90s. Evergreen content. What YouTube is strong at with videos, except this is the paper version of that. I have most of the Calvin and Hobbes books, authoritative Calvin and Hobbes, essential Calvin and Hobbes, etc. I don't have the box set. I've always wondered, what if, I got the box set, what would I do with the other books? Donate them to the library or something? Do they have copies of them? So this is $70. I can get the complete Calvin and Hobbes, which is the entire comic strip. So I can get all of that, and this, and this is something where, what this guy built was something good, and it eventually grew to the point where it eclipsed him. So this is the thing. If you make it all about you, you could be limiting yourself. Yeah, you can create a strong personality-based show, but personality-based stuff is not the only type of content out there. Just like in media, you have strong radio personalities who have successful shows for decades, like Rush Limbaugh and Howard Stern. But, that's not the only thing you can be doing. You can make something else that has little to do with you, and it'll be very, very successful because people like it. And again, it's understanding people. This is the sort of thing. Now, some people will call this building a brand. I have a major problem with that because I understand the demographics of people watching YouTube and Twitch. These are people who are going to be watching in their spare time. They might be coming home from putting up with corporate crap all day long if they work in corporate America. So they don't want more of it when they're supposed to be home from work for the day. They may even have a job where they pretty much are never home from work. They have to have their phone on all the time. They're on call. They could get woken up at 2 a.m. and told to come to the office or the data center, IT, or stuff along those lines. There could be people out there, that just, they never get a break from work. They have to worry about work even when they're not at work. So do you want to have more of this stuff, or do you just want to make stuff that people like and people enjoy, and not be constantly blabbering about my brand? Because after all that corporate stuff, do people really want more of it? So let's hook up the browser and let's look at this blog entry to talk about some of these examples. No, it still isn't fixed yet. It's been a couple OBS updates. Avast Secure, manually link that sucker. My 2020 blog finale. Examples of successful YouTubers who won by focusing content and not getting stuffy. So the other thing besides focusing on content is not having it always be about them. AVGN, people associate him with James, but James isn't like AVGN. This even applies to Irate Gamer as well. Chris isn't entirely like his character, and in some cases I've seen videos that Chris made outside the Irate Gamer thing where he was like goofy and funny and a little weird, I don't know, but not the angry guy that he portrayed in his show. And the same thing too with people playing roles in movies and acting. People play angry antagonists and stuff, and people think they're actually like that, but they're not like that in real life. The guy that played Bully Biff in Back to the Future is a great example of this. That guy's actually a really friendly guy. So he's not like his character. So the thing with building a brand, though, whoa, why'd that trip a Google speaker? Whatever. The thing with building a brand, though, is that if half the people that talk about building my brand, actually read a little marketing, studied some stuff in corporate America, and learned about what exactly is going on when you build a brand, they wouldn't go blabbering that term as much as they do. They wouldn't go blabbering away with that term as much as they do. If people kept talking about this kind of stuff, they wouldn't go just blah 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 blah, because they'd understand it a little better. So you're talking people that are watching recreationally. Give them a show, but don't give them corporate nonsense that kind of deteriorates their views on you. There will be parasocial relationships if you're showing yourself on camera, and people just need to understand them. Understand that it is one-sided. You may think you know somebody, but you really don't. You're only seeing what they're like on camera. And quite frankly, this kind of attachment and stuff, oddly enough, the brand people will then flip the script and say, well, I'm building a community. I'm trying, people come, they become attached to streamers and okay. And you totally take away the human side of it by talking about brand building and marketing stuff. When, as a guy with a formal business background who's talked with marketers with PhDs, I can tell you The biggest challenge when I was first learning about this stuff was people were trying to find ways to sell because marketing was taken with a grain of salt. And in the years since, we've seen things like astroturfing, the rise of individual reviewers, and even today, the problems that exist with the credibility of video game reviews, because people are asking, with the restrictions on reviewing video games up until the release, are the reviewers actually able to be objective, or is it just guerrilla marketing for the game? Because people are silenced who will be critical until a certain time afterwards, or some kind of NDA is in effect, or some sort of something or another. So I've known about people's skepticism towards traditional marketing for a long time, and this continues to with people being annoyed by ads on the internet. So, knowing this, it doesn't add up at all that people would want to invoke something like this with, and then talk about building a community. So which is it? Is the human side of things in play, or is it not? Because you can go either way with that. Do other people matter or not? Does your audience matter or not? Does your fan base matter or not? Does any of that matter or not? Answer the question instead of waffling it. Examples of successful YouTubers who won by focusing on content, not getting stuffy. Probably not the best title in the world. I could actually say, not getting sidetracked or not getting distracted. Reference that old Darla Moore quote about not being able to play in the big leagues of business if every single little thing throws you off and you can't stay focused on the big things that matter, that will be big when they come into existence, like building up a collection of stuff that people like and enjoy for years. Angry video game nerd. The quintessential example of this. I embedded his Bible games episode from 2006 because of sentimental value. That first autumn into winter in 2006 was when I first got into videos, had a lot of fun with that kind of stuff. It's a very coherent, positive, oh yeah, I'm getting started on YouTube kind of attitude despite my crappy videos at the time because I had no experience making them. So it was a lot of fun though, and this episode specifically came out around kind of the finale of it all as we headed into 2007. There's also Alternate History Hub. This is Cody from Alternate History Hub. Guy makes little cartoons about alternate history events, but he stays focused. Now, alternate history is a minefield of potential bad attitudes. Alternate history, yeah, wrong pipe, is an example of bad attitudes waiting to happen. Because people are going to disagree with you on the way you interpret the history. They're going to disagree with you on the way you interpret all kinds of stuff. Then there actually is some very spirited discussions going on in the comment sections on these videos. But Cody stays focused and makes videos. Lots of views. Munchkin. Munchkin got me thinking about pets and animals in a way, that category, in a way that I never thought about it before. But it's not the first time I've seen videos like what Munchkin makes with the cats and, good production value and sound effects, stuff like that. The souped up pets and animals videos I've seen are actually something that I first heard about on channels from over in Asia, where I didn't understand any of the language that was popping up on the screen, like something in Japan or something, but it was cute. And so you had like a video of some cat that hung around like a butcher shop in Japan somewhere or whatnot. Didn't understand any little pop-up text or anything, but it was cute to watch and it was very well filmed. For closer to our shores, it'd be Jun's Kitchen, does things in English, understand a few things here and there. Jun's Kitchen is another really good channel, cooks food for his cats, and his cats don't actually keep trying to eat it because they're incredibly well trained. Probably the nicest trained cats on the internet, I dare say. But Munchkin represents how you can have a YouTube channel and not have any problems with ad friendliness because you're not getting involved in drama because it's not even about you. It's about, goofy stuff your cats are doing, or goofy stuff your dog's doing, goofy stuff your pets are doing. So, and it's good production value. It's cute. You add some sound effects in there and stuff like that, and people like it. Lots of subs, lots of views, lots of kitties. So, Green Ham Gaming. He hasn't been making a lot of stuff lately, but if I say Green Ham, or if I talk about grab yourself a cup of tea or a beer, if that's more your thing, people still know who I'm talking about years later. Had that happen in a couple comment sections, particularly related to things like Shenmue music and the Tomato Convenience Store theme. So this is the incredible i5 Dell one of my favorite videos of his of all time that I parodied with the Incredible i5 Delosaurus, or Incredible i7 Delosaurus, when I bought the Sandy Bridge Delosaurus a couple of years ago. So Incredible i5 Del was what inspired it. And this is really kind of the quintessential video for me. He's done a lot of similar, different stuff since then. But Greenham, who would have thought getting cinematic with shots of your computers could actually work so well at a time when tech videos were getting more and more cookie cutter, more and more pre-produced, more and more generic, more and more this, more and more that. And so this was a breath of fresh air. Hope the guy's doing all right. Hope he makes more videos about along these lines. But this is the sort of thing where, Tim, Greenham grew into something bigger than, Tim doing vlogs or something. So it's the sort of thing where when something does well, it may not have anything to do with you. It's just that except you can say that you made something good enough that people liked it, even if it doesn't reflect directly on you, because people like the thing instead of what it is, instead of you or what you do. Hack 5, the steadiest player in tech shows since the beginnings of my involvement on YouTube. They were doing stuff in 06, they're doing stuff now. They've changed their format over the years, but they've survived the rise and fall of, for example, everyone suddenly ending up under Revision 3 and then going their separate ways later on. I have Season 3, Episode 1 as the embed here, because this is a kind of a big episode for me in terms of when I really started to like their show, even though it was way back in 07. And there's different people involved nowadays, and the format is different nowadays. Ashens. Can't talk about steady players who make good content and just keep on making it quite like Ashens. World's Sharpest Knife. Parodied him with some sofa reviews for a couple of years, until forcing myself to stop so my channel wouldn't turn into a ripoff of his channel, because I want to respect the OG of sofa review, the OG grandmaster of sofa reviews. The World's Sharpest Knife is one of his most popular videos, and I find it's one of his most entertaining reviews as far as I'm concerned here. Roadkill. Been involved. Roadkill is under Motor Trend. It's paywalled more or less here and there. But two guys having fun tinkering with cars. This was part of my inspiration for some of the computer tinkering I've done over the years. I've embedded the Stubby Bob wheelie video from 2016. I think it's only available via Motor Trend's on-demand service nowadays, but there are other car shows that are similar to this, that are folks, tinkering with cars on YouTube and stuff and making a web series out of it. But Roadkill, as far as I'm concerned, is the OG. These guys had everything right. It's just that depends on who owns the rights to what it is they're doing, like Motor Trend and whatnot, as to where you can see their stuff. Motor Trend's been trying to build essentially a Netflix for gearheads, so only really old episodes of Roadkill are still floating around on YouTube these days, but they're still worth watching if you haven't seen them before. Just kind of like watching an old DVD series or something like that. Life of Price. The Life of Price, Basehead. I don't know what this Ho 40 thing was, that where he got the name from, but this is one of his most popular videos from 2016, which is when I was watching a lot of speaker videos and doing some tinkering with subwoofers myself, by the way. So some of my inspiration was from some of these bass nuts, so to speak, going to competitions and making videos about people's hair flying all over the place because of their subwoofers and things along those lines. And lastly, the Piano Guys. This is my favorite Piano Guys song. It's a cover of Home by Philip Phillips. And I first saw this in October 2014 when there were some pretty colors and I liked my job. I was doing database work and SQL work at the time at a small rural facility so I got to see lots of beautiful beautifully colored trees on the way home because it was fall foliage season. Just if I watch this, I'm just reminded of those days where liked my job, went out, took a breath of fresh air, very quietly drove home. Probably some of the lowest stress I've ever had in any tech work that I've done over the years. But what all of these creators have in common is that they stay focused, and building something great is more important than putting out fires, so to speak. Yes, if there's a narrative, take charge of the narrative, but don't let it derail what it is that you're doing. Like we've mentioned earlier, trolls don't have to deplatform you to sabotage you and undercut your success. And that's why I said what I said. But part of really the way you get over a lot of this stuff and you move on from it and do better is just by getting over yourself. And so to round out this discussion, as it's 6:11 at the Geek House. I think I'll order pizza tonight. See if we can get it ordered before the pizza places get too busy with New Year's Eve orders. I'll also get that thing typed up for Facebook. I am deprecating my Facebook involvement and only staying involved to keep in touch with the few family and friends I have left who still use it. I'm only going to be posting memes and a few small updates here and there, but as far as I'm concerned, I am out after 15 years. And the only reason I don't delete it entirely is because there's some people I know that still use it. So, anyways, got to get that typed up for the family and friends. Now, let's talk about everything we've just been talking about with It's Not About Me. And it's not about you as a content creator either. The tech videos have one problem and one problem only, and that is that YouTube, platform issue, has a correlation between the money content makes and whether the algorithms support it or not. Aside from that, and I have no control over that, that is a YouTube decision that YouTube would have to make to back off on this, and maybe people will show less ads or something. But I've watched my numbers for years, and there's a correlation between the money and whether or not the algorithms like your video and promote it. It's why, despite the name MultimediaJay, my most popular videos have to do with appliances rather than anything technical. If that wasn't a thing, I would be making tech videos galore and never look back. The only reason I backed away from this is because I wanted different people watching, because I wanted a different audience that wasn't using as many ad blockers. And in the process, I've gotten back to the more general multimedia focus with these kinds of discussions, which has defined this channel from the very beginning versus the computer tinkering really started up in like 2013 or so. But in light of this, there are people that love the stories of the various computers I have. They may even like the stories more than they like me. So for their sake, as long as they respect that I'm going to be doing all kinds of other stuff besides tinkering with Adelasaurus, tinkering with Tuxedo, tinkering with Monolith, and there's two computers actually that I want to pick up for 2021. One of them I already have. The other I'm going to order with some of the stimulus money we're all getting. That's how you stimulate the economy, getting those dollars in circulation instead of tossing them somewhere. So we'll worry about the money side of 2021 a little later, when things slow down after the holiday rush is over at the 9 to 5 and stuff. And my decision is either work on goofball projects to get hours or come home and work on this stuff. And more of a mix of videos and streams, by the way, taking a YouTube approach to streaming, not a Twitch approach to streaming. It's a thing I do, not the thing I do. I do not want to call myself a streamer, ever, and have that actually be an accurate term. So, for the tech videos, the road forward for them is we're going to do some more tinkering. Might keep the lights, not go back to the plain white light and stuff like that, because we went to all the trouble to make all this. Let's have some fun with it. Geek House Dark Mode kind of fits the whole multimedia thing that I've been going for anyways. So it also makes the sunglasses not look so bizarre as opposed to normie mode, stuff like that. My original idea was to do the sunglass and blue shirt thing green screened against wild and crazy backgrounds. I never really had a good green screen set up to make that work consistently, so one of the various ideas I've had over the years that I've never gotten around to. So, for the tech videos and whatnot, Wacky World of MultimediaJay will cover them. But Wacky World of MultimediaJay is not the only series, that's not the only thing to do in that series. It's any kind of over-the-shoulder, around-the-house tinkering. And quite frankly, I got to solve this equipment issue with the difference between my video setup and my streaming setup, because the streaming setup is currently ahead in terms of production value with all this microphone and fancy filters so I can block noise and sound like I'm on the radio. Need an EQ, though, to put some more bass into what I'm doing so I'll sound even more like I'm on the radio. But plenty of stuff to do. The question is when. But out of respect for what I'm talking about with It's Not About You, I don't want to consider it a problem anymore that people like the stories of my computers more than they like me as a creator. The problem I'll have is this ongoing problem with tech videos where computer people don't have very good social skills, so they pick you apart and they hijack discussions and talk about every little tiny thing you've done wrong instead of just enjoying the darn videos. And maybe getting a laugh at you screwing something up. So this is actually something I ran into very recently on Twitter with another frustrated tech video creator who's talking about the one thing they do wrong, nobody cares. And all they care about is the one thing to do wrong, nobody cares about the video anymore. The fact that you did nearly everything really well. It's the one thing you screw up that everyone hounds you for. And I see this in comment sections on tech videos all the time. People, it just seems like they don't realize how they come across to others. Some of that I know is we're introverted nerds. We don't have social skills. We're socially awkward. We may not come across the best way because we're walking encyclopedias, blah, 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 blah. But that's no reason to not work on that, even if you are an introverted nerd who's often been viewed as a walking encyclopedia like I've been traditionally over the years. There's no reason to not try to work on that. Others will appreciate you putting in the effort. Darn it. Even if you have a formal condition that stunts your ability to be social, why not? I've seen some nervous nerds trying to be social and looking kind of goofy on some tech videos of like playing with speakers or playing with computers or something like that. And I give them credit for putting in the effort. As long as it looks like they're trying to get better, cool. It's the folks that aren't that are always going to be your issue here. So it isn't about me. It's about the fan base deciding to be for me and support what it is that I do. And the way to do that, the way to get them to do that, if they want to be so generous and supportive, is to make stuff that's worth supporting. Not sit there all whiny and entitled just because I've been on YouTube for 15 years. Recreationally, as kind of a sleeper channel, where it's a surprise when I have videos gain traction and views and stuff, because I'm just having fun in my spare time because, you know, jobs are still a thing where I'm at, and there's a lot of dumb jobs around here nobody wants to do. So if I want to make some money, just get hired there like that and be the person that actually wants to work. What a concept! Woohoo! But that's another discussion for another day. The situation with the 9-to-5ers is I'm probably one of the most experienced people on the team, and I want to be more valuable. So learn more stuff, do more things, be more versatile, be able to do more things, not be a stick in the mud if I need to be flexible about having to go to another department or something like that with these warehouse folks. It was really dumb for what I went to school for, but think about it. The people doing the PC repair and stuff, you know, the tech support people were essential workers, you know, they're working, you know, maybe remotely if at all, and, you know, nobody wants to work, so, you know, look down on, you know, picking orders or driving forklifts all you want. There aren't enough people around here who actually want to work that are doing that stuff. So why not grab a piece of that pie, pay the bills with it, and have some of it finance some of this stuff that I'm doing, because I'm a millennial. My generation is infamously known for our side hustles. And our beginning of skepticism towards the idea of having a traditional career. Gen Z, probably even more so. Gen Alpha will probably eclipse us both when they're old enough to do so. So, here we go. Heading into 2021, I'm hungry. I want to get some darn pizza tonight. There's no chance of me losing any weight this holiday season, because, you know, if I'm not eating too much, these darn streamers I'm watching are always cooking stuff. Lasagna, whatever the stuff Yugi was cooking last night, blah, blah, blah. Half the time I tune in to these IRL streamers, they're making food. Come on, man. People are worried about their holiday weight and stuff like that. Well, no. This has been the More Radio Show style stream for tonight. When I come back to ring in the new year later on, we'll hang out, play some music, play some video games, and be a lot less structured like this. Let's get a spin-off video going for this, so this discussion can now be on the channel as under the streams category, as well as get that thing typed up for Facebook and have some darn pizza, darn it. Happy New Year, those of you that only see this. Happy 2021. Here's to hoping things get better. And, I mean, at some point, things get so bad you're looking up and seeing the bottom, so you have nowhere to go but up. So I'd be very glad to tell 2020 to get lost later tonight. So let's do that. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.